This week's parsha, the parsha of Metzora, picks up on where we left off our discussion last week, discussing as we were the laws of the leper, an individual who became ritually impure with tzora'at, with leprosy, as a consequence of speaking lashon hara, speaking ill of another individual. And we expressed that the idea there was that he disassociated himself from the community. And that is why his punishment is that he gets sent away from the rest of the population. And he's not even allowed to interact with other people who are suffering from the same malady as he. In this week's parsha we encounter the remedy. Once he has finally introspected and recognized the error of his ways, he's done tshuva and recognized that the reason why this tzaras, the reason why this leprosy has befallen him, is all because of his actions and his inappropriate behavior. There's a process that has to be undergone in order for him to render himself pure and fit now to return to the community. And here too, as last week, it requires a kohen. The kohen has to come, make sure that indeed he has been cured from this particular malady, and then he has to go and bring back to the Beit HaMikdash, he has to bring his sacrifices for an atonement for the sin which he had committed. And the parsha therefore states as follows: V'hinei, and behold, the kohen comes and he sees, Nirpat nega hatzaraat, the lesion of leprosy has become healed, min hatzarua, from the leper. The commentators are a little bit miffed at why it is the Torah, which is so succinct usually in its articulation of its ideas, decides to tell us that the leprosy has been removed from the leper. Who else should it be removed from? Behold, the leprosy has gone away from the leper. Of course he was a leper. That's why he had leprosy. It could simply have said, and behold, the lesion. Various different comments are expressed in this regard, and I would like to share two of them. The one explanation is, as we mentioned last week, that the whole function of getting the leprosy is for the individual to be able to introspect. You can't go to a doctor and the doctor prescribe a medication. You can't go to the doctor and he'll give you a cream that will heal this particular leprosy. You can't even go, as we read in the Haftarah of last week, to the Jordan River, go and bathe oneself and automatically, miraculously, one is cured. The cure only comes about from self-introspection, from visiting oneself and recognizing that the individual brought this upon themselves through their errant behavior, through speaking lashon hara. And therefore, when a person takes ownership and takes responsibility for his reality, and he does tshuva and he commits never to do it again, that is what causes him to become healed. And that's indeed what the Torah is saying. V'hinei nirpan nega hatzarat, behold, the lesion of leprosy has been cured, and who cured it? Min hatzarua, the leper himself. And it's a very important idea in general in life. We tend to believe that our happiness and our joy and our contentment in life is not in our hands, but rather in the hands of extraneous matters. If we're financially well off, we're going to be happy. If we go and enjoy ourselves more, we'll be happy. And the truth be told, nothing external can give a person a sense of internal happiness. Internal happiness can only come about when a person has a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning and a sense of productivity. And regardless of whether that translates itself into material wealth or not, a person who feels accomplished, who feels fulfilled, who feels purposeful and meaningful, automatically is going to be able to ensure and bring into his life a sense of happiness and of joy. I've mentioned in the past in Shul that it's quite interesting that in our society, where we're more affluent than probably in the better history of our people, and society in general is more affluent than it ever has been for the human race, there is more depression and sadness that exists in today's day and age than ever before. And indeed, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who was here last week, expressed this idea that happiness has to be garnered and appreciated from within, not from without. It's not the trappings of life which make us happy and satisfied. Rather, we have to find it within our core selves. However, there's another way of looking at it, and also carries with it a very important message for all of us. And that is that here the Torah is actually articulating not something laudable, but rather something lamentable. And whereas previously the explanation was that the individual had brought about his own salvation, here we're looking at it from a slightly different angle. And whilst it is certainly true that the person indeed brought about his cure from taking reflection upon his actions and from realizing that only he is to blame for what has befallen him, at what point, what was the cost, what was required in order to be able to get the individual to truly introspect, to truly reflect on their behavior, in order to be able to realize that they had made a mistake? It wasn't a sense of a higher purpose. It wasn't a sense of self-reckoning that is required from time to time. But rather what motivated him was min Metzora. The leprosy itself made him realize his flaws. And sure enough, when he saw the leprosy, he recognized that he had a mistake, and he went and he rectified it. But the Torah is telling us that that's not when we should wait. A person should always introspect. A person should always look into their lives. Not wait for some cataclysmic event in life to say, just hold on, maybe I haven't been conducting myself properly. How true is this in every sphere, and specifically with regards to relationships? Relationships, we tend to go from crisis to crisis, with hopefully some quiet time in between the various crises. And at no point do we actually sit back and say, just a second, why am I not getting to the bottom of the crisis? Why am I always having an argument with my child? Why am I always fighting with my parent? Why am I always arguing with my spouse? And sure enough, we resolve those arguments, and we make peace, hopefully, and we don't carry faribbles and grudges indefinitely. But we never stop and say, great, I'm able to solve the problems when they arise. Why am I incapable of preventing the problems from arising? Sometimes it's a lack of communication. And only when something blows up do we realize, hey, we didn't communicate to our spouse. Maybe only when a child becomes so upset that we realize, I didn't say I love you enough. I didn't say how proud I am of you enough. It's not that we're not proud. It's not that we don't love. But sometimes, all too often, we require a volcanic eruption to take place for us to realize, wait, we need to revisit the way we're communicating, the way we're behaving, the way we're expressing love and affection and admiration and appreciation. Parsha is coming and telling us, don't wait. Don't wait for that to happen. Work on your relationships. Work on our communication with our loved ones, with the people nearest and dearest to us, so that we can ensure that the relationship will always have its ups and its downs. That's the nature of life. But that we don't wait for the last moment, when perhaps sometimes it's too late, to say what we should have said a little bit earlier. I'll end off with a story of one of the great doyens of the rabbinate in Australia. Lost his wife in tragic circumstances. She was killed in a car accident. And at the Shloshim he spoke, as always he would, magnificently. But I think the words which resonated throughout the packed shul was his plea to the people. We don't know what's around the corner. Don't wait to say I love you. And one can never say it enough. One can never say it too much. Don't wait for the moment when it's too late to say it. Don't wait to become a leper to realize that we need to be healed. Don't wait for the fight to realize we need to communicate. Don't wait for the fight to realize we need to apologize and express appreciation. We have to realize it before. Avoid eruptions, and hopefully be able to lead tranquil, happy, blissful, and love-filled lives. Good Shabbos.